It is, as well as being the feast of St. John Bosco, the last Friday of this month of January. And as on Friday in general, we tend to think about the cross, of which we have sung at the beginning, the old rugged cross. In this particular form, Celtic one which has an ancient origin. Then on the other side I have the Byzantine one, so we have the best of both worlds. The Carthusian motto is, "The cross stands while the world goes round," and it is the globe underneath the cross, reminding us that we are on this side, on the shady side, and on the other we will see the light. So suffering, whatever its form, is to be consecrated and not rejected, otherwise we are refusing to do our part. For this is our King, one who is pain all over. And I would like to dwell for a few minutes on this, which just by chance came to me from close friends who had seen it. They had been, for another reason, to that part of Spain, and they had come across this quite by chance. They were going to Garabandal, and they did not even know that this existed. And so, by chance, they found it and went in and got this, which they gave afterwards to me. Now, basically, it's something which not many people seem to know about, and I didn't really know about it properly until I got into this recently, but it's something to be aware of. It's this church, which is going back to the 1700s or so, typically Spanish, and a very good cross in wood done by a very good sculptor. But it was so good, the Lord blessed it in a way He doesn't usually bless a simple cross. Things in 1919 started to happen. And basically, if it were just one, it would be dismissed. But because it repeated itself, and before a very great number of people at different times, we're talking about thousands, and because it was starting to happen also before priests and bishops, people had to sit back and take it seriously and inquire and examine and start filming and so on. And there are actually bits of this on YouTube. But I'll just read one or two bits of what actually started to happen. On March the 30th, 1919, during a mission conducted by Capuchin friars from Montejano, near Santander, it's the same province as where Garabandal is, several children spontaneously reported seeing the fixed, open eyes of the corpus on the crucifix suddenly close. Now for the little people, remember that, it starts with the children often, and I noticed that the children are the eyes of the adults. All these apparitions practically in Christian history have started off with little people. You know why, don't you? Because right now you've still got wings. You're still, because the children, until they start sinning gravely, are still in a state of baptismal innocence, and the Lord can get through to them. And I've had quite a few cases of little children well brought up who do have graces, and one is not surprised. In fact, I know that the lassie who years ago did her thesis on my work, like that is lots of poetry. She did a doctoral thesis on that poetry years ago, but she was from a very Catholic family in Austria. Her uncle was a priest, and she, when she grew up, was going to be a nun. And I heard on the grapevine that when she was a tiny child, she would say things which indicated that things were happening. And her mother asked her brother, therefore the priest, what's going on here? And the priest calmly, he's a superior of a seminary, he knew all about these things. He said, more or less, calm down. Things happen when children are small. It's a common pattern right through the centuries that children are very close to heaven. So don't lose that too quickly. Now, shortly thereafter, the same phenomenon was witnessed by many adults. None of the priests present noticed anything unusual, and tried not to give the reports too much attention. This tactic became impossible to sustain, however, when the eyes were seen to move again on Palm Sunday, big day, April the 13th that same year, followed by a like manifestation on Easter Sunday, seen now by most of the townsfolk. On April the 30th, the religious sisters of the Daughters of the Cross, that's interesting, who ran the school in Limpias, that's the place, also became witnesses when they observed both the eyes and lips of the corpus move on this day. The corpus is the body. By this time, news of these events had spread rapidly, and thousands of people from all over Cantabria and beyond swelled the tiny village to capacity, hoping to catch a glimpse of the manifestations. Many would not be disappointed, for over the next 3 years more than 8,000 persons of every age, rank and class claimed to witness the startling apparitions on the crucifix in Limpias, which had by this time become known as the Santo Cristo de la Agonia, the Holy Cross of the Agony. A logbook became necessary to record the visions after they occurred, and this was provided by the pastor of the Church of St. Peter, and so on, and kept in the sacristy. Ultimately, while there was no way for church officials to determine the percentage of those who truly saw something miraculous and those who merely imagined it, or even purposely feigned a sighting for one reason or another, at least 2,500 persons took solemn oaths before God that these observations were genuine, and numerous cures and countless conversions resulting from the visions and so on, that they were all indisputably authentic. For the ecclesiastical investigation eventually commissioned by Monsignor so-and-so, the Bishop of Santander, on the 18th of July of 1920, the most valuable testimony understandably came from the priests and even other bishops who saw the apparitions for themselves. Now eventually one bishop in particular saw a lot of things, and that's when it really became serious. He came actually from Cuba to look at what was going on, and it all happened before his eyes, and he wrote down exactly what he was seeing, and there's no question a bishop wouldn't be fooled. Now basically what's going on is it starts to do more and more things, the eyes revolving and so on and so on and so on, and things happening. And more than that. And what I wanted to just dwell on for a few seconds was one particular episode, two actually. One was when the Lord, before everybody's eyes, became visibly alarmed when something was happening right before him. There was something not pleasing to him, obviously, right in front of him, and as if to say, even before the cross. But this other thing happened too. There were quite a few non-believers coming, and their reactions were mixed. Many were actually fulminated and completely converted, but others, even though they admitted to seeing things, did not actually do much about it. And at this point, the Lord showed it from this miraculous cross. He could see, and people could see in him, the pain of our God, that what more can I do? That these people did not, worse than Thomas, because Thomas after all, he was genuinely doubting and he believed straight away, these had an issue which they did not want to face. There was nothing that was going to satisfy them. And I looked at this and I thought, that is precisely the case of, I would say, most people around nowadays. It's more comfortable, one is in a comfort zone, not to handle the issue. And if RTE is having a feast day, they're nourishing that. It makes people comfortable, because if you can throw stones at the church, then you're freed from any duty towards it. It's nice and comfy. But it doesn't stop there. I won't go into that now. I want to go into St. John, not John of the Cross, John Bosco. Now, we had in the first reading a programme of life. We are to be joyful. The old translation was rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice, which has come into a modern canon, that is a chant, a song which one can go into 4 parts, you know. And it's something which St. Paul is offering as a programme of life. And he goes on in the context precisely, because that's why it's chosen for this reading, of those that we are forming, that we need to form them into all that is honourable. Now, look at this. You who are growing up, look at what is honourable. Because God is God of all things. That is why in school we take on all things. It's all His. All knowledge is His. Culture is important. It's the baggage we carry through life. Now, as you're talking to people, you can see straight away whether they've got any baggage or not. And most people now, if you're honest about it, the baggage they have, they've got it from RTE. What are they saying? They're repeating, they're recycling, regurgitating what they've heard and what they meant to say from RTE. They can't think it through for themselves quite often, and they certainly can't quote much quite often, except what they've heard on the media. Now, true culture is quite different. It's our interior memory banks, full of our own baggage, which we are in command of and can handle at our fingertips. We need E.G. to be able to handle any conversation and talk to any person at his own level, talking about anything. Therefore, we need to know lots of things about lots of different subjects. That's true culture. And why in school we study so many different things. Later on, it'll all serve. And by the way, exams are past the holidays. It's the way we use the extra bits. A person who uses well free time is a person who's filling his memory banks. He's got a lot of extra good baggage. So rather than just passively Google or take in what's going on the screen, choose what to take in. A good book will be with you forever if you're reading well in your childhood and adolescence. If, on the other hand, you're taking in just what's coming through the screen, you'll be just like the screen, and you won't remember things because it's a different phenomenon. The mind doesn't work in the same way at all. A person who's good at learning has to be able to be quiet and not under heavy impulses. Therefore, a sponge needs to be tasting and relishing words, written words. Now think about these things, because now when you're a sponge, young, is the time to be taking all these wonderful facts, because the brain is very efficient and awake at your age. Now, John Bosco, how did it work? There's a story told about him that he was chaplain to this house of reform, which is kind of prison for children and young people, adolescents I suppose. And one day he went to hear the confessions of all of them and went to the superiors of this, whatever it was, penal place, and twisted their arm in his own excellent way to doing something which is impensable, you say in French, unthinkable. Let me have them out on a day out for one day, and I will guarantee you that they will not misbehave and they will all come back. I know what I'm talking about. I've just did the confession of each one, and I guarantee you they're all in a state of grace. And he got his way. So off they went from the prison for one day, all with him, and all came back not having done a thing wrong. And you know how he got through to them? He got through to their level. He learned how to conjure. A conjurer is somebody who produces rabbits and things out of hats, isn't it? He could do it all. In other words, he knew exactly how to get through to young people in a way that was both interesting and faith-filled. Faith and fun. A great educator. But it started with the fact that he had the key of their heart, because he got them to have confidence in him. They loved to be with him, and he was a magnet. Now, as we go through life, that's kind of important. If we are repellent, people will smell our bad smell, because Christians are what they smell of. It's whether they give off perfume or a bad odour. And it's all made from joy. But it's not trivial joy or superficial joy. It's that element of being good company. So I'll leave you with that. It's kind of important for everyone here. People will be magnetised by somebody who's good company. Somebody who's a heavyweight just puts people off. Now remember that. Therefore, what does one do? Acquire a good baggage of, yes, stories and jokes, and master the art of telling them. And you'll be good company. It's all a part of your culture. There's a big word for it in Latin. It's called urbanitas, urbanity. Urbs is the city, and an urban person, an urbanitas person, is a person who can live well in society. So that's what education is about. your place in society. A complete person, well able to talk to anyone about anything